Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's weekly live immigration attorney chat here at Immigration for Couples. I hope you are all doing well today. I see we have a lot of people who've already thrown their questions in the comments, so I'm excited to be with all of you and answer those questions. For those of you who are new to our firm, welcome. We're excited to have you here. Our firm, Immigration for Couples, we're dedicated exclusively to helping couples across the nation and across the world and navigating the U.S. immigration process. And so we know that going through the U.S. immigration system, it's a labyrinth that can be overwhelming and stressful. And that's why we host these weekly chats where I answer your questions live to give you clarity in the chaos. And then also we have a free resource center, and that's below. You'll see at immigrationforcouples.com. And so that free resource center is very robust. You can watch a webinar that I created where I go over the four main options that are available to couples, how to prove your relationship. And then you can also, in that free resource center, download a free chapter of my book, Navigating Love and Immigration. And the chapter is about proving your relationship to immigration, which is really important. All right. So so I know I have a few of you who know the drill. Ginger, I laugh and smile because it makes me happy to see you. Ginger is one of our regulars. And so Ginger, you know the drill. Everybody who's joining us, everybody who's here live, please let me know, where are you at in the world and where are you at in your immigration case? You can say beginning, middle, or end. And most importantly, how are you doing? How are you feeling? So, and Ginger, you're always a positive light. So thank you for kicking us off. So you're in the UK. And keep those coming and I'll pull those up because it's really important. Check in with yourself. How are you doing and feeling on your immigration journey? It's important. You have to take care of yourself. You have to lean on each other when you're going through that immigration process that's very stressful. So, all right, Callie, oh, it's so lovely to see you. You're in Nashville. Yay! Oh, Ellie and Raj, it's great to have you here today. Thank you for joining. Keep them coming. Please let me know where are you at in the world, where are you at in your immigration case, and how are you doing? All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to dive into the questions that are in the queue here. So Michael, I don't know if your question was recorded either. Sometimes if you put it in before 11 a.m., it won't stick. So let me see if you, I see yours right underneath, Michael. Okay, it came through. So Julia, good morning to you as well. So you're in NYC, your fiance just received the K-1 visa at the very beginning of July. Yay, congratulations. We're all celebrating you. Thank you for sharing. Give some positivity and hope and inspiration to others who are just starting out. So fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so Michael, here's your question. And I see you put your from NYC. Great to have you with us. So you've been with your partner since 23. He's Filipino. You applied for a K-1 visa in December. Okay, so that I'm guessing that's still probably pending. You're probably getting close, hopefully, to a decision. And so you're wanting to know if it's okay or if you're able to apply for a tourist visa so he can visit, or will it interfere? And this is a very popular, very common question. And I know why you're asking, because wait times are long and you want to know, is there a way for him to come and visit you? So it's important to understand the different types of immigration benefits that exist. So there's what they call a non-immigrant benefit. And so non-immigrant means that, or not having immigrant intent. It means that you just want to come for a visit. So like a tourist visa, there's no immigrant, non-immigrant intent. So that means you don't want to come and live in the US. You just want to come for a visit. Then there are immigrant intent benefits like spouse visas, like fiance visas. Those have the immigrant intent that you are intending to immigrate to the United States to live. So you can see that those are two different intents that would come into conflict, right? If you have a fiance visa case pending, your intent is that you want to be together, you want to get married, you want to live together in the US. But a tourist visa is only for short visits. So the issue with applying for a tourist visa when you already have an immigrant intent case pending is that immigration is automatically going to say, wait a minute, you're telling us in this application you have intentions of coming to the US, getting married and living, but now you're telling us that you only want to go for a short visit. And now there's a lot of things in immigration that don't make sense. I understand the logic and wanting to have the tourist visa for a short visit in the interim, but immigration doesn't see that. It doesn't see it that way. A lot of things in immigration that are illogical, right? So it's really very impossible to get a tourist visa approved if you already have an application pending for a spouse or a fiance visa. And typically, my advice to clients is typically don't, because it can cause issues with immigration thinking you're trying to commit fraud or lie to them. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but typically you're not going to be able to get a tourist visa, and there are risks for adding complications to your current pending case. Always, if you want to talk about this in more detail about your specific case in private, I'm happy to meet with you. But in general, that's the reality of tourist visa applications when a fiance visa case is pending. So I hope that makes sense, Michael. Let me know in the comments. Is that maybe not what you wanted to hear, but if you just let me know, was that helpful? Was that clear? All right. And it's great to have you with us. And thank you for your question. Okay. Let's see, Natalia. Your question is quite long, and let me see, it's like cut off. So I want to make sure I can read all of it. Oh, I think it might have just been cut off in the comment section where I was looking. Okay, so you are a naturalized US citizen from your first spouse. You did a fiance visa, 10 plus years of marriage. You're divorced and you want to apply for a spouse visa for your second spouse. Are you able to? Sure. I mean, sure, you can, if you are in love and you are married and you are wanting to go through an immigration process, yes, as long as you are both eligible, specifically your spouse is eligible for the spouse visa. And by eligible, I mean, no issues in immigration history and things like that. So I know that you're asking because of the optics, how this would look to immigration. And immigration has a very, very long list of what they call red flags for adjudicators. So, for the officers, when they're being trained and when they're reviewing cases, there's a long list of what they call red flags. Some of those red flags include prior marriages, prior immigration cases. So you have, two of those red flags. Having a red flag in your immigration case doesn't mean that you're automatically going to be denied. It just means that the officer is going to see those facts and then look at your case and pause and say, wait a minute, we need to dig deeper. We need to ask more questions of this couple. We need to understand what happened with those prior relationships. What happened with the prior immigration case? Why did that relationship end? Why is this marriage going to last? What is different about this relationship? Why are you in love? So it prompts them to ask more questions, and they're also going to want to see, more evidence. So you'll have a little bit of an uphill battle. So is it possible? Yes. And are there going to be some complexities and difficulties in your case? Yes. All right. Aw, you're very welcome, Hector. All right. We love having you with us. So, okay. I'm glad, Michael. Yes. Kind of what you were thinking, but having it explained just so you have clarity. So I'm glad that that was helpful for you. All right. You're watching from Indiana and you're going to your interview this month. Congratulations. Good luck. Yay, Lisa. Great to have you back this week. Good morning to you. Hope you're doing well. All right. And I hope I don't. Yeah. Yes, Julia, this is concerning indeed. And you and your fiance are a same-sex couple and you're planning to get married in October. But after this announcement, you're wondering if it would be wise to move up your wedding date. Yeah, I mean, it would be a good idea. We're in very uncertain times right now, and it's it's really concerning. It really is. And if you're able, I know I hate when the immigration system and government, accelerate your timeline or make you have to make decisions that you wouldn't have otherwise made, like, moving up your wedding date. But for peace of mind, it sounds like you already intuitively know that that's going to give you peace of mind and going to be the best thing to do. So making sure you have that legally binding marriage ASAP, for sure. So thank you for the question. So, oh yeah, because you're okay. Yeah. So you're asking, if even if you got married before they overturn it, would affect your application or even getting a permanent green card a few years down the line. Typically, whenever there are big changes in laws and policies and rules, typically there's something where they call grandfathering, so that there's a line drawn in the sand. Hey, a change is being made today on these laws and policies that will impact those from this date forward and not retroactively. So typically taking action like getting your application filed or getting married, solidifying that union when it's considered legally binding, put you in the best position possible. So typically that's what happens when there's a big change like that. So yes, there typically would be a grandfather clause that would provide you or afford you protection. So I know it's uncertain times, and that's why, and I've even asked even before this change in administration, how are you all doing and feeling? Because it's a lot emotionally when you're going through an immigration journey, and especially with such a volatile administration right now, it makes it even more stressful. So that's why I want to check in and ask how everyone's doing, because this has got to be hard. This has got to be hard for you making these decisions. But it sounds like you're definitely asking the right questions, and it sounds like intuitively what you both need to do, and getting married sooner would definitely give you peace of mind and afford you protection. So thank you for the question. All right. You're very welcome. I'm glad that was helpful. And Natalia, and the free resource center, I have a free chapter of my book available. And in that chapter about relationship evidence, I talk more about red flags too. You might want to check that out and download it. Okay. Hi, Jose. It's great to have you with us. I know that sometimes you miss the lives, but we're happy you're able to be with us here today. You're still waiting for the National Visa Center of Colombia, and you've received the documents accepted only. Is there a big delay at the embassy in Colombia? I wouldn't say a big a big delay. It's a few months. And Jose, I can't remember if it was you or someone else that I had mentioned about checking the new IV scheduling tool. Ria, if you remember that one, there was that video in the shorts that you could throw in there, so Jose can follow the instructions from that video and access that link. Oh, Julia, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. And Lisa, oh, I love all the love today. It's very much appreciated, because it is definitely a very challenging time to be practicing immigration law, and you're gonna make me emotional. I really appreciate it, and I just love this. I love this community, and that we're all here supporting one another. And the emotions that I am experiencing right now is just having gone through an immigration journey with my husband. I get it. When I first meet with someone and they're feeling overwhelmed and confused and worried and all of that, I felt all the things, and so did my husband when we were going through our immigration journey. So I get it. And we had all kinds of bumps in our immigration journey too, with immigration making mistakes. So I get it. All right. Yeah, so Ria will, I think Ria is still with us, and there, she's got it. There you go, Jose. She just threw it in there. Check out that short video. Check out the tool you'll put in the embassy, and it tells you how long, about how long the wait is. So they go by documentarily qualified date. Okay. All right, everyone. Let's see. Let me get back in order here. Okay, so I think, Julia, you had a couple pieces, and so I don't want to make sure I didn't skip over someone. Okay, so Could your case be rejected if you try to prove your intent to establish domicile concurrently with my wife instead of moving back to the US to reestablish domicile? At the NVC phase, both of you are in Mexico. So the domicile piece you will prove at the interview. So you'll have to prove at the NVC phase. Typically, they'll request that, and at the interview. Domicile is a legal term of art, and that is your home and fact. So if you are living abroad, that is your domicile at the time. But you can still prove your domicile in the US through things such as filing a tax return, having a driver's license, owning property, having financial accounts in the United States. So it's not something you necessarily prove concurrently. You just have to prove it at the time of the interview and the visa being issued, because you have to be domiciled in the US to be able to for your spouse to receive the green card. So you're not going to get rejected for proving or your domicile. I'm not sure if I follow what you mean concurrently, but you have to prove it. So you're not going to get denied for proving it. But the time in the case, or the point in the case where you're going to be proving domicile, is going to be the National Visa Center phase and at the interview. So hopefully that is clear and makes sense. All right. Let me go and see who is next in the queue. Make sure I have questions coming in from 4 places, so it takes me a minute to get my bearings straight on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. So is a bond available for an undocumented spouse with no criminal history or contact with ICE? So bonds are something that are paid if a person is detained by immigration. There's an option usually to go before a judge and ask to pay a bond so that individual can be released from immigration detention and then complete their case outside of detention. We are in, very uncertain and ever-changing times with immigration, and so historically it's, you've been able to pay a bond to be released. There are still bond hearings happening, and the factors that an immigration judge is going to take into consideration as to whether or not to issue a bond, definitely include whether or not there's criminal history, prior contact with ICE, if there's already a deportation order. To be clear and transparent, my firm and I, we do not practice in the sphere of immigration detention and litigation in immigration court. But I do, many years ago I did, and I do keep up to date with what's going on in the world of immigration court. But, in general right now, it's still possible to get a bond, but they are really trying to make it more difficult. So, and good morning to you as well. You filed in June, you received your receipt number. What are some things that can be that you can be doing while you're waiting for the next step? Well, I don't know what kind of case you have, so I don't know if you have an adjustment, a spouse visa, fiance visa, but looking ahead and starting to proactively prepare for the next step in the process, that's going to be different based on whatever your case type is. Typically collecting relationship evidence, getting financial documents around, and things for if you're doing a spouse or fiance visa for the National Visa Center phase of the process is helpful. I would encourage you to check out the free resource center, and I have resources for every case type, so you can see where you're at and what those next steps are in the process. Good morning to you as well. It's so great to have you here. And hello to you too, Patricia. Great to have you here too. So what's better to respond to a request for evidence after interview for missing documents, by mailing them or uploading it? It really depends on what they're asking for. Sometimes we have found that uploading it onto the online account yields a faster decision. Other times, if they're asking for an updated medical exam or something like that, you have to mail it. So it depends on the type of documents. And then it depends on how extensive the documentation is. If they're asking for more assets and, financial documents, if it's going to be a really big submission, sometimes that's better, to do by paper if there needs to be any kind of legal argument accompanying it. But in general, we have found that uploading documents online is a great way to get a faster response. And it looks like Ria just pinged me and says that we have a question that came through here on Instagram. So so Instagram question from Molly B 2727. My husband is Egyptian and renewed his passport. Should I update my case with his new passport expiration date? Thank you for all you do. You're very welcome. So depending on where you're at in the process, and whenever you're going through an immigration process, you're going to have to typically go through several sets of applications. And with each application, immigration is having you provide updated information. So if you already have an application submitted and you're waiting on a decision, typically there's going to be an opportunity on future steps in the case for you to provide that updated passport information. If the case is already in line for an interview at a U.S. embassy or consulate, then you definitely want to make sure at the interview that the consular officer is aware of that updated passport. Okay. All right. Terrence, good morning to you too. You're very welcome. It's my pleasure. And yeah, we're looking forward to that as well. Looking forward to being part of your guide and part of your team on your journey. You're very welcome. So Betty, great to have you back. You're in BC, Canada, waiting to hear from the National Visa Center for the K-1 visa. You're hoping to hear in mid-September. We hope that too. We hope you get a decision very soon. All right. Okay. Hector, greetings to you too. You're in Georgia. You're a U.S. citizen, married in Honduras in 2023. Your I-130 just got approved for your wife. Super happy, but scared to death for the interview. Is this normal? So I'm understanding, Hector, that your wife is currently in Honduras, and then you're just you're going through the National Visa Center process. Is that correct? And then you'll be going to that interview, because that interview is normal. It's a standard part of the process for the spouse and fiance visa. So I'm not sure if that's your case type. If you want to throw in an additional detail for me to know, that would be helpful. But yes, the interview is a normal part of the process. But and I mean, you said that the I-130 just got approved, so I'm understanding, reading between the lines, that the I-130 was approved, and then you're talking about the consular interview. So that's definitely a normal part of the process. Definitely be prepared. Definitely have plenty of relationship evidence. If you're working with an immigration attorney, I always do a mock interview with my clients. My team and I make sure you have a packet of everything that's needed to take to the interview. If you're wanting help with that, if you don't have an attorney, we're here to help. But yes, congratulations on the I-130 being approved, and hopefully that interview comes for you both soon. So you're very welcome. I'm just looking to see if you throw any other comments in. Okay, I'm going to go to the next question here. There's so many here today. Okay, so you entered with ESTA, you overstayed. If your adjustment of status case through your son, if it's not approved, is there a way to appeal? It depends. It depends on the basis of why they, why they would deny the adjustment of status case. When someone comes on ESTA, ESTA is not a visa, it's a visa waiver program. And when you use ESTA, when you apply for and accept ESTA, you're accepting the terms of ESTA. And because it's a visa waiver program, when you're applying and receiving it, you're waiving your rights to go in front of an immigration judge. So those with ESTA they are in a more precarious position, because if something happens, like a denial on a case, or if you've overstayed your ESTA and you are detained by immigration, you're able to be immediately removed from the U.S. without a hearing, unfortunately. So ESTA is a very precarious position to be in when you have a pending application, especially with this current administration. I'm hopeful that your adjustment of status is approved, but if it were denied, it really will depend on the reason for the denial as to whether or not you'd have any options at that point. So I hope you're working with an immigration attorney, and please speak with him or her about options for your case, likelihood of approval, anything that you can do to mitigate mitigate any possible issues in that case. So. All right, good morning. So you got your interview for your husband's green card in September. Congratulations, that's very exciting. He came here in November on a K-1 visa, and you were married in December. So yay, that's exciting. You're at the very final steps in the process in the home stretch. So congratulations. Thank you for sharing that with us. Hi to you as well. Okay, so you just got back from visiting your wife in the DR, still waiting for an interview, 14 months. I know the wait times are brutal. I hope you get a decision soon. So you didn't get a copy of your NOA1. You lost it. We did everything. We checked the check and bank history. Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, you filed the application, and then you paid with a check, and it shows that check cleared your bank account, and you didn't receive that receipt notice. Like what are you asking? What can you do at this point? That's always a tricky situation to be in. That's good that you have proof that they accepted the fee. That's a good indicator. I am hopeful you mailed your application with tracking. Having that proof is also helpful. You're going to have to get in touch with the USCIS support center. So there's an 800 number. If you Google contact USCIS, there's an option to chat and there's an option to call. When you don't have a receipt number, that gets a little more tricky, but you're going to have to call and speak with a representative. You could also use there's a USCIS tool that they have a couple, like check your status, didn't receive a document. You could try using that tool. Typically it needs a case number. That's the part, like I said, that gets tricky. And you could also try mailing a letter to USCIS with that proof and requesting the receipt notice, but I would definitely call and try to get a live agent on the phone to speak with you. So good luck with that. That's difficult. Hi to you as well. So you're in Sri Lanka. You just got the interview date for your spouse visa to the US. Congratulations. That's exciting. I was a widow with 2 kids, married to my second husband. Will they be interviewed? What will they be asked? So it depends on the consular. It depends on the consular post. Some have children come just to confirm identity, but if they're under a certain age, usually if they're under like 14, they typically are not going to be asking them any questions outside of what their name is. So you'll have to check with your specific consular post. They're constantly changing the rules. Sometimes they say, please don't bring your children. You don't need to bring your children, even if they're part of the application. Other times they'll say, please bring them. We need to do, a biometrics, like a photo. So just check with that consular post. But typically, for children, they're asking minimal questions about age and identity. All right. Jose, right now we're still seeing cases. We have clients who've been approved for fiance and spouse visas from Colombia. So it's definitely a tricky time right now, but hopefully you'll receive an interview here very soon. Okay. Yeah, and Natalia, absolutely. I'm sure that your prior relationship was real. You're right, it wouldn't have been approved. He was 20 years older. It was not good, but I tried so hard. Yeah, and that's fair. Unfortunately, like I said, immigration just has these list of red flags, and when they see it, they dig deeper, especially with this administration. It doesn't mean your case will be denied. It's just to be aware that they're going to ask more questions. And so you'll have an opportunity, both of you will have an opportunity at the interview. Well, your spouse will have an opportunity at the interview to answer questions about that prior relationship and what happened. There hasn't been any changes right now for the fiance visa applications that are banned from the travel ban, unfortunately. Okay, I'm going to try to do a couple more questions and then I do have to go. So I-130 petitions right now are taking about 18 months for the petition. That doesn't matter what country, that's just the wait times currently, about 17, 18 months for that petition. And then from there, you're looking at least a year for the interview appointment for Lagos, Nigeria. Good morning to you as well. You were married under the fiance visa, but had to move to Spain before we could do the adjustment. Do we need to apply for a spouse visa instead? So if you've abandoned your adjustment of status application by leaving the country, then yeah, you're going to have to start over. And typically, since you're already married, you'd be looking at a spouse visa process. Depending on the specifics of your situation and when you're planning on moving back and things like that, there could be some other possible options for you. I'd have to speak with you in private, but typically I'd have to speak with you in private to kind of assess your situation and see what other options may exist. But in general, yeah, if you've had a fiance visa and you weren't able to complete the adjustment and you left and abandoned that application, then you do have to start with a new application. Good morning to you as well. You're in Thailand, Minnesota. All right. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can. You're very welcome. You're very welcome also. All right. Have I ever had someone file for a fiance visa and after filing the fiance visa get cold feet and change their mind? Yeah. I mean, that happens. That's part of relationships. Sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't. And if that happens, there's a process, to notify immigration. Sadly, yes, sadly that has happened. You're very welcome. All right. Okay, yeah, and so you said your interview will be in Honduras. Yep, so that's a normal part of the process. So you'll have to go through the national visa process, and then you'll have your interview. Oh, you said your USCIS for the your 485 went down and changed from 7 to 12 months. It's back again to the first step that we started. I feel so sad. Do you have any ideas? Thank you. Yeah, those wait times on the online tool, they are just like a roller coaster. They go up and down, and I know it's kind of unnerving. It gives you a little bit of whiplash. You're feeling like, "Oh, we're getting close," and then it goes back up. Right now, for adjustment of status cases for marriage green cards, we estimate around 12 months. We've definitely seen, individuals or couples rather getting interviews in less time than that, like 6 months and things like and wait times around that area. But on average, 12 months is what it's taking for the green card. What I will say is it's going to happen. It will happen. I know it's hard. I know it's unnerving to wait, but please hang in there. We'll get to the finish line. All right. All right. So I do need to go. Thank you all for all of these great questions. I wish I could get to all of them. I had a few I wasn't able to get to, but I will be here next week, Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time again to answer your questions. So thank you for all being here and being in such a supportive community with one another. Please take care of yourselves. Please take care of each other. Don't lose faith. Don't lose hope. This administration wants you to be afraid. They want to make things difficult, but just don't lose faith or hope. Don't give up. All right. Hang in there. Yes. And thank you all for being part of the community. All right. You're very welcome. You're welcome. All right, everyone, please take care. Sending love and positive vibes for a good outcome for you all. All right. Take care. We'll be in touch.